Yeah. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of A Talk With. I'm here with the one, the only, Mr. James Sutton. Introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm James Sutton, as previously stated. Do you want any more than that, or is that just it?
Really, what you do,
I am a prop maker. Mainly, I make props for film, television, and the theatre, and then fan productions and such like. I also do acting work, whether that be audio or visual work, sort of in a fan capacity. I don't do paid work or anything unless you do want to pay me, in which case, cool. But yes, and mainly those fan projects have included Torchwood, Rebirth, and DW 2012's fan series, but also the Overton audio stuff as well.
Yeah, I mean, first things first, how are you? You're doing all right?
I'm good. Warm is the main thing. We've pre-established. I'm stood next to a fan, which if I can hear my sort of Dalek-y effect when I look at it. Because of my voice, and hungry as the other one, because for the viewers, we've been on Zoom most of the day already previous to this one with some friends, and so I only just got off of that and have managed to obtain a Domino's pizza. Other pizzas are available from
I
other
also have
chains.
food with me. I have beans and cheese over here on a plate because there were no clean bowls, so I had to put it on.
So this is less a talk with. This is a dinner with. We're on a date currently. This is what's happened. We're having dinner together. So it's getting very cozy, this series. Eventually, the next one they're going to be doing breakfast. So
yeah, so it's good to finally speak to you. Of course, we only met fairly recently, actually, because I think it was we met properly at Comic-Con in person.
Yes.
And then of course there are certain plans for Endgame, which I won't really get into, but that was kind of how we got in contact, and through a server that since we've both quit that server now. But yeah, it's good to be talking to you on here about just more stuff, really. I mean, the first thing that kind of comes to mind, of course, is your character, Captain Fraser Ward.
Naturally.
A very it's an infamous fan character, of course, being in DW 2012 and the Overtonverse, and especially Torchwood Rebirth, which the first volume is out now, which is was brilliant, by the way. It was absolutely.
Thank you. I mean, Connor did all the. I didn't touch those scripts at all. Connor did all the writing on those. It was really nice to get to finally have a story, because I've kind of spent years we planned stories, we planned seasons and stuff, but just one thing or another led to just they didn't get off the ground effectively, and so we were trying to be ambitious with things. Like there was a script written and it was so ambitious, like there was a building blown up at the start and there was etc happening, and it just couldn't be realized with the budget and the time we actually had to do it. So things kind of used to get set up. We did like minisodes, and in lockdown we did like an audio minisode and all that kind of stuff, just to give people some pieces with the characters in. But definitely it was lovely to be able to actually sit down and go, there's going to be long episodes coming out with our characters telling an arcing story. So it was really, really nice, and it was nice to see the reaction to it. It was a general sort of positive reaction to it.
It was very much honestly.
Well, thank you very much.
Obviously, for everyone who doesn't know who Fraser is, how would you describe him to people who haven't seen or heard him before? Because
Fraser Ward is the captain of Torchwood. When people hear that and see pictures, there's always a sort of, he's Captain Jack Harkness. He's not. So the Torchwood Rebirth is set in a different branch of Torchwood. So we do reference there being another team in Cardiff, but they're kind of a separate thing. We don't really talk to them, and that's where Jack Harkness is with Gwen Cooper and all the others. And we do, as fans of Big Finish, we like to respect that continuity. So we do actively keep that up. But then Fraser he's different from Captain Jack. He's played by me, so he's not American. Obviously, he's not an immortal or anything like that.
John Barrowman.
And he's not John Barrowman. No, he is. he's basically me, but if I was only sort of sensible. So there's whenever I've written in the past for Tommy and Fraser, Fraser is the voice of reason, and Tommy is the voice of like Tommy's the silly voice in my head that sits there and goes, we should just set fire to that thing. But why? Why would we do that? And that's Fraser, the one who goes, why would we do that? So he's always quite the sort of sensible character that's kind of telling people where to go. Recently, we've developed him a bit more, where he's a bit more almost like Owen's character, almost in a way, in some aspects of how human he can be. But there is a level of him just being the sort of straight man to Tommy's funny man. If that's.
I think from conversations we've had, Owen's your favorite Torchwood character, right?
Owen's the one that I resonated with the most. Not so much series one. Series one, Owen is a completely different kettle of fish, and it's a bit like, it'd be amazing together. It's awful. Series two, Owen, there's development. There's still levels of him being a bit, but there's definitely. There's a redemption arc for him within that season, and there's a sort of, the end scene with him and Tosh forever haunts me, and how sad it is, and really? everyone goes on about how sad that scene is, and I don't think if it wasn't for how those characters became Tosh and Owen, how likable they were in the end, you wouldn't feel that hurt. And I think that the other way that it feels painful is they felt so real. Like out of all of them, like Owen had flaws. And like sometimes they explore flaws in TV shows, but Owen had flaws. Like he had proper flaws. And when you get the back story he had and Adrift with his wife and everything, it just hurts. And that's I really there's levels to him that I related to, and so Fraser's very heavily sort of if Owen was the captain of Torchwood, that's effectively what Fraser is. There's a balance, obviously. It's where because I'm very similar to the characters in certain ways. I take elements from different characters I like in general that have sort of formed myself. So he's not a carbon copy, there's levels of it is its own character and it's right. But whenever writers ask me, so how do I write Fraser's character, I just go sort of if Owen was in charge of Torchwood, do that, and that's kind of how it comes out, and then I can usually interpret those lines on the page into the correct mannerisms.
I think that's the same with most writers actually when they're writing their characters, whether original or like a new incarnation of the Doctor, for example. I mean, we all kind of inject ourselves, but also our inspirations into it. I know I've been watching a lot of this show called House MD recently. And
I'm a big fan of House MD. I'm a
big fan of House MD. Finally, I found another House MD.
No, I cosplayed him in the lockdown. I did a full-on House cosplay. I can see the cane from here. It's up there.
Let's see that picture. Let's do a picture of you as Greg House one day. But I love that show, and I took a lot of inspiration from House for my Doctor, and a lot of inspiration from what I've been through for my Doctor as well. It's very much me, but also my inspirations. I didn't realize I was taking quite a lot of inspiration from how House pain until like Jed. But we all get our inspirations from characters we either love or characters we hate.
I think there's a level of it because in my mind, I think everyone pulls from what they know. You need to if there's a character that made you feel something and you want to, that is the character that makes you feel something, then you should emulate that. But the other thing is, of course, we are fan creators. We are fans of a show and we are making that. So I've always seen it in a way that I'm happy to take concepts from things I like, because what I'm making is a love letter to everything that I love. In a fan capacity. So if I'm writing Torchwood and I love the character of Owen, then of course I'm going to almost write a love letter to him in the character I play. I never want it to be a complete copy. Like I wouldn't want you to sit down and go, he's ripping off this character, XYZ. But if there's an essence, sometimes I don't mind that, because a lot of the time, these are my inspirations in life. And the thing is also, I think people sometimes go, "Oh, can I help you, dog?" Sorry, the border collie has just gone off. And then my brother's just shouted a rude word. I don't know if you could pick that one up, but great.
I don't have my headphones on, but I can't hear it. But definitely keeping that in.
Probably. yeah. It was just the border collie barked. My brother just went, "Shut the up," and I'm like, "Thank you for that one, everyone. I'm glad we could have this talk." Where was I going with that? Yeah, it's effectively though, to take a sort of, I think in real life people take characters. I mean, I do definitely. People take inspiration from people they like, characters they like. You see people out there and they've got, Jason Momoa's haircut or something like that, or they've got, they've taken, I don't know, Farrell's hat. Did he wear a hat? I can't remember. I think he wore a hat at one point. That may be a bit like 2013 reference, but but effectively people see characters and they take little bits from each thing as they walk along. They sort of, it's almost like the Krillitane. They sort of cherry pick the best bits of every sort of iteration of things they see.
Yeah, you can also pick the worst bits as well. I think it just depends on what they're feeling at the time. I think a lot of the Dolce fandom, a lot of people in it are obviously going to take quite a lot from the Doctor. And I feel like a lot of my dress sense at first it wasn't similar to how the Doctor dresses. I'm obviously not dressed in what I usually wear today, but then I started.
Yeah, you sort of come as Alec Baldwin from Beetlejuice.
that was a really well put reference.
It's niche, but that shirt is completely the one he's wearing, and that.
Like,
I mean, your house as well. To be fair, that does look a bit sort of like you kind of look like you're in the waiting room for the afterlife. When they're all. I don't know why I'm going so deep in this Beetlejuice reference.
Don't say it a third time. Do not say it a third time.
Ooh. Because I've had that TikTok sound in my brain all day. Where
last thing is Michael Keaton showing up.
I don't know. The viewership might be good unless it's the Flash movie, but
or it's from Morbius. I mean,
yeah, true. It's Morbin time. Ooh.
I mean, my sense of humor when Morbius came out just descended into that.
I know. Poor Matt Smith. Poor Matt Smith. When you saw that clip of that guy. I mean, anyway, sorry, I've derailed this conversation.
Oh no, that's the whole point. That it's serious. It's just to derail every conversation into just
mad. Well, don't tempt me. Tangents galore. It's very rare I stay on track.
I definitely call for tangents and stuff with this because that's what it is at the end of the day. It's like a natural conversation. I think that's the thing that I'm trying to achieve, and I think I've done it very well so far. It's got that kind of interview DNA, that kind of podcast.
Yeah, I mean, there's got to be a vague structure, but it's a kind of a rambling chat, which is you've got a sort of vague outline, but it can be anything.
Like I have no pre-prepared questions. I'm just kind of running it off my head. And talking of questions, I've got one in my head at the moment. It's like, what's the difference between playing Fraser in live action to playing him in audio? Because of course, in audio you've played him more in Torchwood Rebirth, while in live action it was in DW 2012's Vengeance of the Bloodline mainly.
Yeah, so Fraser in live action is a bit different to how I do him on audio. So effectively, the last time I recorded Fraser live action, I had never done the audio side of things, basically. So he was primarily a visual character because we did the Minisode from the Ashes, and that was the first kind of outing of it. Effectively, Luke had said that he wanted to have Fraser appear at some point in series 5, and he also was talking about having Molly Reed, who plays Lauren. So in one of the versions of Torchwood, Molly was going to play Lauren, who would have been the sort of Gwen Cooper-esque character, alongside Tommy and me. And so he said that he wanted to have Tommy as the companion. This was at the Fall of the Doctor filming.
So I swear like that Minisode was supposed to be a part of Fall of the Doctor at one point. But it got
so effectively what it was we'd started writing Torchwood, and there was teasers put out and everything. Obviously, Dan Patton had done an original version. So many moons ago, Dan Patton had come up with an original one, and it basically got to a point, as far as I know, from what I've heard, that he sort of could either spend his time doing Fractured Timeline or he could do Torchwood, and obviously he decided to be the Irish Doctor, which is, it's his thing. And so Torchwood got put on a shelf. And then I started going, oh, well, I'd like to do a Torchwood fan series at some point because I really liked Torchwood as a show. At which point Luke heard about this and then went, oh, well, I had this idea, Torchwood Rebirth, would you like to possibly do it? And I was like, yeah, sure. So I then picked up the mantle of the Torchwood Rebirth side of things. And from there, we kind of we looked at stuff. So the first appearance would have been Fall of the Doctor. We'd planned some episodes, and I'd shown Luke the first script that had been written. There's it was a 20-page script. It wasn't great. It was really bad. It was written by like a 16-year-old version of myself. But it was what it was. And so I sent that to him, and I was like, right, okay, this is this. And he read it, and he went, okay, cool. Because in the first ever version, and I don't know if she'll exist anymore because he's remastering a lot of stuff, but effectively there was a character called Olivia Fox, and so Olivia Fox was the first iteration of the sort of Gwen Cooper character in the Torchwood series. She was going to be the sort of main character almost, and so she'd appeared previously in Luke's series. In some of the episodes she worked at Unit, and so in the original scene, we were going to be it's kind of the end of time for David Tennant, where he meets up with all of his old companions before he says goodbye, which is what happens in the episode. And so in The Fall of the Doctor, Luke goes to all of his old companions as he says goodbye. And then there's a bit in the episode, in the movie, where he falls on, he's by the phone, he's like, Olivia, pick up, please. And he falls over and he's on the floor, and he accidentally presses one of the buttons on the console as he falls. And it always bugs me because I'm like, well, what happened? What does that button do? You've pressed it now. Like, have we lost the bathroom? What's happened? What's gone? Is that why the doors explode later on? Why have you done this? That's just a prop. That's a prop thing for me. I would have made him redo the scene so he didn't hit a button. But anyway, that
means he literally falls over half the time.
That's it, yeah. So it's the fall of it's the fall of continuity. No, so he pressed the button and he says goodbye to Olivia, and that's because Georgia, I think there was a problem getting her to film on the day, or she wasn't available, something like that, that kind of thing. So she wasn't available. So me and Ben had filmed as Tommy and Fraser, and so we'd gone to filming where I played Omega, because obviously well known for playing Omega mainly in that movie. I also played Alpha Centauri and Archelon and K9, though Dan Patton got credited because the K9 thing, he literally asked me 9 days before the movie came out to do it, so the credits had already been rendered by that point because it was a 3D one, so they couldn't change that. But effectively, we'd been there for that, and he said, "Hey, I'd like to get the Torchwood people in this end scene. So when Olivia says goodbye to my doctor, you guys sort of do this kind of run up thing." So so the deleted scene came out because we filmed our bit, but she never filmed her bit. And so in that scene, we're running down a street, and I made this prop, which was a sort of there's a video of me somewhere where I'm talking about this prop. It's not online. I think it's unlisted. And it's basically, it was a Weevil Trap was the idea. So in my head, Luke said there's a gadget, and Tommy's messing around with a gadget, and that is so being me, I was like, well, what kind of gadget? What's it doing? What are they trying to do? So I invented this Weevil Trap thing, which is meant to
lights on it, right?
Yeah. So it's got Christmas lights on it. So Tommy's meant to have it in the scene as we run down the street, and we're going all sort of like I'm going like, where is it, Tommy? That kind of thing. And then we're meant to run around the street, and Olivia's meant to be on this mission with us. And then that's what in the deleted scene that was posted, we're kind of like, is that him? Is that the Doctor? Because we're kind of stood over here, and the Doctor is meant to be over there talking to Olivia, and then she's meant to turn around and talk to us, and then we're meant to be like, right, well, better get on with things, and so we run off. And so that was the general thing. We were just chasing a Weevil. And so then when that didn't go used, I then sat down and I was like, right, well, if Luke wants to have these characters in series 5, because in Fall of the Doctor, Luke, when we were filming it, Luke came to me and said, I really like Tommy's character. Would it be cool if he could be the companion in series 5? I'd like to have him be the companion in series 5. So I was like, yeah, sure. Obviously, it'd be good to link up Torchwood with the Doctor Who series more so, and it could be sort of, in the same way. Sort of Martha went over and Jack, and obviously then they came into Torchwood, and it's a case of then they're, in there. And so that was kind of, that was the kind of thing. But then it was kind of like, oh well, if Fraser appears, and so does Lauren and Tommy, and they're all meant to be Torchwood characters, then really we should do something that sets them up as Torchwood characters before they appear in the show, because then they're just Doctor Who characters that appear in Torchwood, whereas they were originally written, like Tommy was written and Fraser was written as Torchwood characters. I think Lauren was already in it, but she wasn't meant to be a recurring character. She was meant to pop up maybe once, and she was either meant to pop up once in How Time Flies, and then maybe later on. But I think she more so appeared later on, and I can't confirm this because Luke hasn't told me, but I think she appeared more later on because of the fact that then she was picked to be in Torchwood. So it was a case of I had Molly in mind, and I went, oh well, I'd like to get Molly to come in and play this character, and he went, oh well, we've already got her in our series, she's playing this police officer. And I sat there and I'm like, oh, why did it have to be a police officer? Any other character than a police officer? Because now it's just a carbon copy of Gwen. I was just like, God, any profession I could have worked with, but the fact she is a gorgeous dark haired,
what Torchwood is.
Yeah, exactly. She's a gorgeous dark-haired policewoman who's going to find out what Torchwood is with a mysterious captain.
There's taking inspiration and homage from, but then there's that.
And the thing is, it was completely accidental. So Luke had already put her in as a policewoman, and so I was stuck with her being a policewoman. And so it's a case of I would have had, and obviously like Lizzie is the prime example, and Olivia Fox. Olivia Fox would have been a unit soldier who got selected to be in the Torchwood team. It wasn't a case of she stumbles upon it or whatever. And Lizzie is basically what Olivia would have been, which is a unit soldier who gets brought into the team through the proper channels rather than this kind of thing. But with Lauren, it was very much a case of originally, in the first version we did, she was gonna stumble upon it, and obviously in the minisode you get an idea that she's kind of like trying to find out about this secret organization Torchwood, which is kind of interrupting her crime scenes and all this kind of stuff. The developed idea upon that actually led to, and then none of this is happening, but it developed into that we didn't pick her up from that point. She stays as a police officer. She doesn't come chasing after us. It actually gets to a point in the original script that the old Torchwood team die. In the opening 5 minutes of the original New Era plan, we kill off most of the team, and then we're like, okay, we need to replace the team. We need this and that, and then I go, oh, I did meet someone who might be actually quite good for our team, and then we go and select her. Yeah. And by this point as well in the story, we actually had we made her a detective, so we'd actually got her to have a promotion by this point. So she's not a policewoman on the beat anymore. Yeah. She's actually a detective, and there's reasons to bring her in besides the fact that she's, so there was levels of, we were trying to separate it from being Gwen, but now it's not going to happen. And so I don't know what the original question was that led to this point. We've gone on a real tangent from there. It was something to do with Fall of the Minisode.
Listen to it. It was about it was the
Minisode and the deleted scene, I think, wasn't it?
I feel like I asked you about
oh my god, it was the visual. It was the visual and audio. Wow.
Audio question, yeah.
Yeah, right. We'll get back to that one. I'll rein it in. It's fine. So effectively, this is all because you asked me that. Christ. So the minisode. I'll get back to the minisode now. So the minisode effectively, I had this deleted scene, and we needed to get the characters in first before series 5. It was like, right, well, we'll do that. We'll set them up as Torchwood characters. So for that thing, we were at MCM Birmingham. So MCM Birmingham was going on that weekend in November. So, which is why I'm blonde. So in October of 2018, I dyed my hair for the first time ever. I went and saw ELO the night before, and then I went, it's classic. I went to the O2, I went there and I saw ELO, and it was beautiful. Jeff Lynne was there, like 70, maybe 80, I can't remember.
So jealous.
It was incredible.
I love Doctor Who, I love Torchwood, I love all of the film and TV media, but if there's one thing I love, it's Jeff Lynne and the Electric Light Orchestra.
Well, you can't beat a bit of ELO, can you? So exactly. So it was amazing. Me and my dad went along. And what ended up happening was the day after that, Fantastic Beasts had come out, basically. Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald had come out. And my friends were all doing a Newt Scamander, a Queenie, and a Tina, all that kind of, they were doing a big group cosplay of those characters from Fantastic Beasts.
I assume
And so,
right.
Hmm?
I assume you did Grindelwald, right?
yeah, and so the only one that was left, and at that point I'd done Jack Sparrow as a cosplay, so I was already doing sort of, you know, depth characters, and so the only one that was left was Grindelwald. And I was like, God, if this was the first movie, I could have done Percival Graves, where he has nice dark hair, which is what I have naturally. But I got left with Grindelwald. So I went, you know what, I'll do it. I'll dye my hair blonde. And then I can also do Spike from Buffy the same weekend. Because it was October MCM London I did this for originally.
Yeah.
And so I was like, right, I'll dye my hair blonde and I can do two characters I really like. And they're both villains. You know, Spike is a kind of, he redeems himself by the end, but he's a bit of a villain. You know, he's a vampire.
Buffy sometime because I've never seen it.
It's fantastic. You'll love it. It's very much, you can see, because I definitely think Russell had seen it. I think Russell had seen it, and he took a lot of inspiration for the new series and Torchwood from it. It was there's definitely DNA in it of that kind of formulaic level. And so yeah, I dyed my hair, and from there I then went, oh well, I'll do Grindelwald again. I'll get the money's worth out of the costume, because after I dye my hair back, I'm never going to do this cosplay again, basically. Yeah. So I dye my hair blonde, and we then go along to MCM November. Now, originally, How Time Flies, I think my thing came up before How Time Flies. And
in How Time Flies, you played, was it Ashley? What was the name of that character?
Ashley Jones.
Ashley Jones, who was later played by Jack Reeves.
Well, I was the second Ashley Jones. I won't mention who was the first Ashley Jones, but someone was originally the first Ashley Jones, but they didn't like the scene. I think they changed their mind about how they wanted to shoot the scene or something like that. I don't know, but effectively, I'll get into it. I'll finish the blonde. We'll get past this bloody minisode. I'll do it for you. So dyed my hair blonde, did Grindelwald, went along to this convention, which was in Birmingham. And so we went along to the convention during the day, and in the nighttime, we went out and we filmed the minisode. We had 2 evenings where we filmed the minisode. So the first evening was mainly spent doing the matching up with the Weevil shot. So we actually painstakingly walked around Birmingham trying to find scenes, because the episode was Combat, which is episode 11, I think, of series 1 of Torchwood, which is where they have a lot of Weevil scenes where they're chasing it. So I clipped all of those scenes out, got rid of Jack chasing the Weevil, and then we went and matched up pretty much as best we could locations. I'm still very proud of that. There's one shot where the Weevil is there and we pan back and you see me running after it, and it was filmed in Cardiff, but our one's in Birmingham, and it matched up really well. And so we spent most of the night doing that. I think we did manage to get to the alleyway. So the alleyway, a week before this, we went along and we watched Crimes of Grindelwald in the cinema in Birmingham together, me and Molly and someone else. And we went along to that. And then we scouted a few locations. We did a lot of the promo images that people will have seen of sort of blonde sort of Fraser. And then the next time we came down, we did that. So we found this alleyway, and it's literally like on the Market Street Square thing. I can't remember the name of it because I've not been to Birmingham in a while. But the Market Street Square, there's a McDonald's on a ramp, and around the corner from that, there's this alleyway. And we walked down that, and it was like, this is where the Weevil should attack, because obviously in the scene, the Weevil's running around the end of an alleyway. And I was like, well, this is a perfect alleyway for this. And so there was rats down there and all sorts. It was really grim. And so we did that night 1. And then night 2, we've obviously finished it off and everything. So that it went really well. It was just us. We had a friend who was a video person from, I can't remember what you call him. He was a cameraman basically from but he does like his own edits and stuff. And so he does stuff at Comic-Con where he does sort of cosplay music videos. And so he came down and he helped us and he recorded everything on his really nice camera, which is why it looks actually half decent. And so the basic gist of the thing was, it was taking the idea that Tommy and Fraser were chasing after a Weevil in Birmingham with this device. So I dug out the original prop, did some modifications to it to make it a bit more interesting than what it was. It was actually, the actual basis of the prop was that sort of housing that I'd ripped out of my first family computer. So we had this like white blocky beast of a computer, and I took it apart and took out this inner bit, and then I stuck in some old dome lights from my Dalek build I'd done many moons ago that didn't quite work out, and then I put in like this gauge and some Christmas lights, which is the main sort of thing in the scene. And so the whole idea came from the fact that Fraser will be chasing after a Weevil. He'll be using this device, which is a Weevil Trap. And so the Weevil Trap is meant to point time distortion energy at the Weevil, and because Weevils are said in Torchwood to be time sensitive to certain situations. So the idea of the trap is it would point this energy, a focused beam of it at the Weevil, and it would sort of, give it quite the brainstorm.
To the point and give it a headache,
Yeah, and so that was the thing, and then obviously it goes wrong because it's Tommy's made it, and it has to go wrong. And so it goes wrong, and Fraser then has a fight with the Weevil, doesn't die, obviously it runs off, and at that point that gives us a reason to have Lauren introduced in the scene, and so it was a nice little thing to do. Ben wasn't there for the Comic-Con, so he actually sat in his room very similar to this and set up his phone and just pretended to be on the, and I added some like monitors in the background, but that was it. So that was all done. And so that's basically what happened with the minisode anyway. That's the whole reason it happened prior to that. And it's nothing to do with your question.
I mean, so about it. The questions are very as I said, they're very just improvised, and I really just want tangents. At the end of the day, it's me talking.
Oh, you're getting it. You're getting those tangents, baby.
I am getting tangents. So, in terms of live action, in terms of what you've done so far in live action, of course, you've got the Minisode. You've talked about pretty much all there is to talk about the Minisode, really. It was brilliant. I've got to say, it's a brilliantly put together Minisode.
Thank you. It was. I don't really do editing in that way. Like my videos I make are more sort of almost like a documentary in a way. It's very simple.
Kind of.
So
similar here, because like I'm mostly making audios, so when it comes to when I'm going to be making films, it's going to be a new kind of thing for me as well. It'll be interesting. I think But,
what with the minisode though, and I'm taking it back to the minisode. I actually edited that in Florida on holiday. We filmed it in November, like the end of November, and then midway through December I went to Disney World on holiday, and then at the end of January it was actually going to be posted. So I had to get on with it because Luke wanted it out to be scheduled. So I would go to the Disney parks during the day, and at like 10 o'clock at night I'd be sat on my computer editing this minisode together. On Premiere Pro as well. I bought Premiere Pro to edit it, and then I used it to edit that one minisode, and then I ended up paying £20 a month for the rest of the year to not use Premiere Pro. So that went well. And then the only other interesting thing really about the minisode I can say, which is just funny, was we went to Science of the Time Lords in Leicester, the Leicester Space Centre, and Luke wanted it to be sent to him, the file to be uploaded like the next day, I think, or something like that. And so we went out of the hotel, and I was sat there on a computer in a McDonald's trying to use their Wi-Fi, desperately trying to send the minisode to Luke. And we ended up using 4G from my friend's phone. He hotspotted it to my laptop, and we were sat there like watching this WeTransfer go. And I was just like, oh, this is poor. But it worked in the end. Anyway, to the next one. What do you want to know?
Which, of course, is Vengeance of the Bloodline. Of course, Fraser in that episode, he doesn't have the biggest of roles in the grand scheme of it. He's in it quite a bit, but he's then arrested. Poor Fraser in that scenario.
So
I just wondered what it was like doing that episode, and
very long. I felt like years of my life vanished doing that. Well, it did. It literally. So, taking it back to MCM Birmingham 2019, which would have been the next convention after the minisode. We went down to Birmingham the day before the convention, and we went out, and I was Ashley Jones, which you'd asked about earlier on. So we filmed the alleyway scene where Ashley Jones gets killed by the Time Flies from How Time Flies. And so I'm in disguise, and I've got this wig on, and I've got glasses, because we were literally going to go from that scene to go and film Fraser scene for the next episode. So I had to look completely not like myself or sound like myself, which is why he has the most ludicrous. I literally said to Luke, I was like, I have limited accents. I can give you Christopher Eccleston, or etc. And so there was it was a vague Christopher Eccleston voice. And so I'm the other thing is, of course, Fraser Ward, the main character. He's dark clothes, very dark clothes, which is why Ashley Jones is in the lightest blue denim outfit you could possibly imagine, with a bright red shirt and like an Arsenal cap. I literally stole it all from like my dad's wardrobe, and so I'm wearing the complete opposite of anything you'd ever see me in. And so we filmed that scene, and it was obviously in the original How Time Flies before it got remastered and I got replaced by some talentless hack. For anyone, Jack Reeves is a friend. That is a joke. I mean, you know, he's not a hack. But I love you, Jack. I'm sorry. But no. Effectively, though, still in my job, so I can't believe it. No. So what happened though was we left that filming. We went from that scene, and we went to a park. And so this was the first time I went to this park. I had a cold. I had an awful cold that day as well. Like, it was genuinely terrible. And so I take the wig off, and there's promo pictures of Fraser. I don't think any version of that scene will ever be seen, because I think Luke doesn't have the storage space. So I think he's deleted all the footage from the original version of it, because he literally, his black magic camera stores so much. Like, it takes so much things. So I think he's had to delete all the old footage to make space for the new.
I did see a few brilliant scenes in the promo that weren't any episode. Like, there's one of you standing on the building, like a typical Torchwood shot, with like looking over.
Yes, that
looked incredible.
That was lockdown. That was like the third time we'd come to film, because the first time we filmed, we went along. I had the cold. I had like spiky hair to hell, and the wig had actually made the hair look like that, and it was really weird. And I was sitting there going, and that's that was the day we took all the pictures that end up on all the cover photos of like the Rebirth volumes, because we just did a photo shoot there. So there's like pictures of me and Dom and everything stood together, and that was in the original version of that episode that is never going to be seen. From there we went to Meg's house, and we did an interview. So there's an interview of me for some sort of anniversary of the DW 2012, or the little Red Doctor story. I can't remember which one it was, but there's a video of me, and I have an awful cold, and I'm talking about, and I'm dressed as Fraser. And so that was that time. So from there, we went down again in February of 2020, so just before the world ended. So we went along, I think it was the 1st of February, and we filmed more. We went back to that park and we filmed some scenes. So we did some pickup shots from that episode. And we also filmed episode 3. So I was in episode 3 as well as a forensic scientist in that episode. So I'm like in full white with a mask on, so you literally can't see it's me, and another stupid accent. However, I don't think that episode is coming out. I think that's the original episode 3, which got cancelled.
Yes, because I heard about that, and now it's
so that was Still Life originally.
Yeah.
So Still Life was the one that was meant to come out. I don't know if Luke's repurposing any of the scenes for other episodes, because I think he mentioned that. So I'm not going to tell you what happens in that scene.
Cool.
But effectively, I was in it as a forensic scientist. So we filmed that and more scenes in the park. Jumping ahead, the world ends, and Luke Newman gets a nicer camera. And so then he wants us to refilm every scene. And so, that was it. I've missed a date. So I was meant to go along and film in summer. So there was March 2018, summer 2018. No, wait, March 2019, March 2019.
Yeah.
Get my business. So
yeah,
March 2019, we filmed the first. I'm Ashley Jones, and we filmed the first version of Vengeance of the Bloodline.
that one.
June or July 2019. That's when the Slovene are being filmed with. So the Slovene get filmed with for the first time. There was an older version of the Slovene costume, and there is a video of when Luke Newman got the head. Luke Newman got the head for the first time, and when we went along and filmed the Minisode, the Torchwood Minisode from the Ashes, there's a video of me with blonde hair messing around with the Slovene head on, being like, "I need to be naked, Rassilon, brother. Your body is magnificent." You know, that scene. So I did that whole thing.
I'll say this: the one thing with Bloodline and like the Slovene is that it wasn't a surprise. It was not a surprise that it was the Slovene. It was the first 5 seconds.
He shouldn't have done it. Like I don't know if Luke watches these things, but if Luke says it, the sound effect. It could have gotten away with maybe the blue light. The blue light maybe from a distance because he cuts to the outside window, so there could have been because he has the bzzz, and everyone's going, well, it's the Slovene, isn't it? He's going, oh well, it could have been the master, but no, it's not, is it? You like there's no point. And then Tommy shows up 5 seconds later holding vinegar in his hands. like he may as well have been holding it's pickled eggs, but he may have well just been holding a jar with the word vinegar on the side.
The idea of him having like food in every episode, that's fine. But vinegar, pickled eggs from like biscuits to pickle.
Yeah, I mean the thing is, it's a means to the end, isn't it? It's Tommy has been given the plot device. He carries the plot device with him.
Although to kind of end that line, they did do the last scene in the kitchen.
I was going to lead to that, yeah. So the last scene, they run through a kitchen, a place famous for having vinegary foods in it. And Tommy wouldn't, they could have had them run into the kitchen and Tommy go, pickled eggs, I'll grab those. And then, the scene could have been done in a way that they're in the kitchen and the Slovene, because the Slovene literally points it out to them. The Slovene is like, you're carrying a weapon on you. And he's like, what? Yeah. And it's like, maybe I shouldn't have mentioned that because you probably didn't know that was a weapon until just now. So it was.
I did like episode 2. I thought it was a good episode.
Episode 2 is one of the I genuinely would say one of the best ones he's ever done. I think. I agree. I think the actual quality of the episode, the Slovene costume as well. Obviously, there was a little bit of kind of people saying about the mouth and stuff. Who cares about the mouth? The thing is, it works. There was a proper mouth talking on top of the mask and the thing. I have seen far worse attempts at other things to, in general, that don't even look half as that good. And it was, that's not even English, but it was a case of, that was really well done. And hats off to him.
It was
fantastic.
It was brilliant. I mean, I've got to say, it was really practical, really kind of, you could see it was Slovene.
No, completely. Instantly recognizably a Slovene. Not even like a dodgy attempt. It was solid. Like it's a proper Slovene, especially for a fan budget. Like the arm was done by Philip Thomas Robinson, who is a consummate professional in these kind of things. He also did the trickster mask that I wore for later on. We'll have to get onto that. But he does wonderful work on all these kind of things. So I got him in touch with Luke. What happened was Luke, he does loads of monsters for events. So he puts together like Silurians and all kinds of bits and bobs. And he's recently done a Tetrap. And it's an incredible costume, genuinely very impressive. And so he was doing all these things, and I was like, Luke, you should get him in to do your stuff. And so I messaged Phil. I said, Phil, I'm gonna get my mate Luke to message you. He does these fan films. You should totally hop on this. And so Luke's then got him in to do a few little bits. He obviously did the arm because Luke had already bought the head. So the head was this latex sort of rubbery thing that he bought off of eBay. So they had the head. The head kind of comes down to about here. So everything from here on up is a custom thing that was made by someone else. Then the arm up to about here-ish is Phil. I think the actual claws were Luke. And maybe the bone bit that comes out, the sort of bone arch thing. But then the body was Luke. So Luke did the sculpting on the actual kind of thing. I think he carved it out kind of foam and stuff. And so he did that, and then he did the blending, and he made the other arm as well. And then he painted it all to match up and everything. So he did do a solid amount on it, but and Phil did a wonderful job on the arm. I'm in the process of trying to get one of those arms from Phil because I'd like to have a sort of Henry Van Staten style. That's a bit of Slovene.
That would be
Slovene's arm. It's been stuffed. Because I've got the Cyberman head in the garage, and I've made the Roswell milometer, or we got a model of the Roswell milometer. So I just want to have a few of the kind of, it's sad when you sit down as a child and you go, I want to be the doctor when I grow up, and I turned into Henry Van Staten. There is a Dalek sat in my garage currently. Speak to me, Dalek. Now I know your name. And so.
I felt like I was talking to Henry.
That's the thing. I'm going to leave you on some streets somewhere beginning with S. Seattle, Santa Fe, somewhere beginning with S.
I like that he ended up on Skaro.
Yeah, did he end up, or was it M? I can't remember. Was it N?
It It was
Yeah, one of them's M and one of them's S, because she sends him somewhere with S, I think,
yeah.
and then he
Yeah.
says somewhere with M, maybe. I
Yeah.
maybe the other way around, but details. So yes, so they did the filming with the Slovene.
Yeah.
And I couldn't make it. It was the hottest day of the year, in fact. And originally I was meant to be wearing the Slovene costume, which is interesting because Luke ended up wearing it because Dom couldn't fit into it. And me and Dom, I'm actually taller than Dom, so I would have been very interested to see how that ended up playing out. So Luke ended up having to wear it. But subsequently, because I didn't turn up to that filming, Fraser got written out. Because on that day, we were going to go off and do all the Fraser scenes separately. So there were scenes originally with the Doctor and Fraser. So you know how Meg and the Doctor, I don't know if this, I didn't get all the scripts, so Luke only sent me the bits with me in. But as far as I can tell from that scene, Dom and Meg go into the building, and then Meg leaves to join Tommy again, and the Doctor gets captured. In the original version, me and Dom go to unit and get captured when we go into the building. And so we're together, and Meg and Tommy are always together doing the other plot. And so it kind of became a mix.
Yeah, it was noticeable to an extent that there was a lot of Fraser cut, because you had like the Doctor and Fraser like saluting and waving at each other like they've spent more than 5 minutes with each other, which they really haven't in the context of the plot, because like
So that was in the original script. So the original script, it ends with me doing that. What's interesting though is that they were still filming on the old camera, so they refilmed the scenes with the Slovene. So there was a complete opportunity to have Fraser be in the second version as it was originally intended. However, Luke decided, I think he said he liked it better this way, or it worked better or something. So Fraser subsequently remained cut from the general thing. So what ended up happening from there was, we then came back to film again. Luke had bought a new camera, the world ended, etc., etc. And that's when we came back to do the February filming. And so the February filming is the first time he's got the new camera, I think. And so that's when we did a lot of the park scenes. And I think we did the scene with me and, was Ben there that day? I think Ben was there that day, because Ben didn't turn up to the second time. So there was a second time where me and Molly went along, and we filmed our stuff mainly.
I mean,
and that's
talking of Ben, of course. I mean,
yes,
he's the companion in the series, Tommy, but he's also Tommy in Torchwood Rebirth. I mean, I think we've discussed it in the past, but there are some stark differences between his characters in Rebirth and DW12. Where did with Rebirth, was that kind of like with Rebirth? What did you want to do with Tommy that couldn't really be done on Doctor Who? Couldn't really be done in a DW 2012 series, really, pretty much.
So Tommy in DW 2012, he's basically got a lot more. He's more comic relief for them. He's become sort of the Mickey, the sort of, the Danny Pink. He's the side character kind of thing that shows up alongside the main companion. And that's kind of his role. And the thing is with Luke's taken him in a direction which is more so being the comic relief element, as far as I can tell. I mean, in this story, the difference is Tommy in our series has sadness, depth to him, kind of thing. That's because
in like DW 2012, him and Meg kind of carried out Amy and Rory style dynamic.
Yes, very much an Amy and Rory style dynamic. So Tommy is often there to sort of complement Meg more so than being his own kind of character. From the start of these episodes, he's doing his own stuff still, but it's still very much, if they are the two companions, it's very Amy focused, Meg focused on being that character, and the same way it was Rose focused, and Mickey then is Girl in the Fireplace and Age of Steel. Mickey is there, but Rose is still the companion, isn't she? So there's a case of he is very much a side piece to the main companion in
Third
thing.
wheel,
Whereas in Rebirth, he is treated as a main character. He is, there is often in most scripts that we've done and episodes we've done in the past, it is very much Tommy and Fraser are the two main characters. And so there's this kind of thing. So the way he's treated in Rebirth is, especially in Rebirth Volume 1 and all the other ones, is that he's doing his own thing. He's got his own role, but there's levels to him. So he is the funny man. He's got comedy to him. But I often think that people who are funny are inherently sad. Comedy comes from trauma. And so sometimes the funnier you are, the more sad you are secretly on the inside because you're masking it.
I've had quite a few conversations with like really funny people about sort of things like that. I even like once after like MCM London, I bumped into Jimmy Carr randomly on the because he was just on the train. Like I'd spend all of the day.
What was he taking the train for? Was his car broken?
And like, because I was supposed to go see him with my dad, but then coped him, and of course, with what happened at the beginning of this year. Obviously, I just went up and said I was going to see you with my dad, but it got cancelled. And he said, and then he asked me how my dad was, to which obviously he's not doing too great personally. He's not doing too great at the moment.
No.
To which and then I responded that. But then it turned out like we had a very nice conversation because it turned out he was like the one person like I needed to see because we had a really in-depth conversation about grief. He didn't exactly tell me what happened because in situations like that you don't really talk about your own experiences. And then I looked up later and he was talking to me about this grief cast and the grief podcast. It turns out his mother was one of his main inspirations and she sadly passed away when he was quite young. So I think a lot of comedians and just comedic people in general and have like there's depth, as you said.
Yeah, exactly. There's I think it was Robin Williams who said that funny people are often people that are sad that are trying to stop other people from being that way because they know what it's like. And so Tommy, that's the element I think that is missing from the DW 2012 version, I think, because it's also Doctor Who. The other thing is Doctor Who, there is a level of it's the family show. Torchwood is the adult show. And ideas and concepts of the fact that Tommy is inherently, probably depressed, he's got layers to him, he's got trauma.
I'd also argue kind of the same logic applies to Sarah Jane Adventures as well. Because like Sarah Jane, I think it's also like the same logic that Doctor Who is mainly like going from one adventure to the next. Well, Sarah Jane Adventures and Torchwood, you're following one ensemble and you can really...
You're following human characters. Exactly. And in humanity, it's very hard to avoid concepts of things that are so intrinsically human. I mean, obviously Torchwood gets a lot of flack for like, sex elements and all that kind of stuff, but sex is everywhere when it comes to humanity. Like it is intrinsically in everything that we see in life, in marketing, in all this kind of stuff. And so unavoidably in the more adult show, it's going to be addressed. But with Sarah Jane, I think it was handled very well, and very importantly, concepts that they have in there because of the fact that young people were going through these kind of things, like Clyde and his dad, for instance. That whole storyline.
I was going to like Mad Woman in the Attic with Rani feeling isolated from everyone else. I felt like that kind of harkens on what Martha and Rose kind of. The Martha and Rose kind of dynamic of Martha being overshadowed by Rose. I think Rani being
overshadowed by Maria. Yeah,
it works better as a sort of arc within that episode for Rani than it did for Martha. Martha it kind of overshadowed quite a lot of
because the thing is they went too hard on it with Martha. It was too much of making her the rebound, which is complete. I really hate that element because Martha, any other scene where they don't mention Rose, magnificent character. She appears more so I think than any other character outside of her thing. She comes back in series 4, she appears in Torchwood, she comes back at the end of time. She gets more time than anyone else.
One of my favorite companions.
She's a legend, an icon, but it's one of those things that is suddenly like they then mention it again and you're like, oh, we're doing this again, are we? Okay, right, cool. And then it gets back to her being a normal character, and it's like, and it does annoy me. I could understand maybe the first few episodes, maybe like the last possible one, Shakespeare Code, possibly when they're in the bed, like up to that point. By the end of that episode, maybe Shakespeare flirting with her or something. She goes, you know what? I don't need to chase you around.
And
I'm fine.
I don't mind it being brought up by Jack in Utopia, because that makes sense. Because last time you saw them, Rose was there, and the Doctor was a Northerner with belly and belly and spiky hair and a leather jacket. I think
she'd want to know that kind of thing. She'd want to sit down and ask him about those kind of things and all that kind of stuff. So that's fine. But there is a sort of level of it being, it begins to get too much kind of thing. But yeah, with
going back to Sarah Jane, I think like the Mad Woman in the Attic, the Nightmare Man sticks out to me as one that kind of, because
that one's very deep, because Clyde having fears that he'll never be what he wants to be, an artist, and he'll end up working in a McDonald's for the rest of his life or whatever, or Rani will have to teach fake news to people or whatever, she'd have to lie on.
And like that scene with Luke in the car with Sarah, and where he's like, I mean, even the fact that he's afraid is quite, it's very human, and it takes.
I think the trickster ones, any trickster one, the concept.
Disassociating it from the writer.
Oh yeah, that guy's an asshole. No, but the act
favorites.
Just to do the classic separate the art from the artist. It's in unavoidably, and especially the trickster links now. It's unavoidably done. So I can't change my childhood. But the ideas played around in those stories, just that her friend has to sacrifice her. Her friend has to kill herself at the end of the episode to let her live, and there's a point where she chooses to let her friend die, and you're like, what the hell? And then the next one, the parents.
I know, but like there's the speech in Whatever Happened to Sarah Jane, and Andrea is talking about being on the verge of death. She's talking about, kind of similar themes to Torchwood and that, because of course, the darkness and everything. And like Andrea is like, oh, do you know what it feels like to be knowing you're going to die? Knowing that you're hanging on to that pier and entering that moment. And then of course nobody else does. But also there's one very dark moment that nobody thinks about, because it's a character, but nobody
Peter Dalton.
Not Peter Dalton, but it's the child Slovene, because it's wearing a skin suit.
Oh yeah, well the fact it's killed two children. It killed one, and
there's a prologue in the novel of The Lost Boy, and you know how the child Slovene is an arsehole? He's just a arrogant arsehole. But the kid he skinned was really nice, really polite. Like one of the best people you could ever meet. And like the novel really goes into that and tells you that this kid was
Of course it does. And then he was only 2 days away from retirement.
Like the prologue was all about like the disappearance of his family. And then you realise that the mother and the father in that episode are the kid's parents.
Oh.
They were all the same family in that. Like and it's
wow.
It's like the novel really added.
Sarah Jane is surprisingly dark. Like I think people forget about how dark it is, but if you really look at it, if you sat down and think about every concept, like it is.
Warriors of Kudlak is a prime example.
Warriors of Kudlak is kids getting kidnapped to fight an alien war, and then it turns out it doesn't even matter in the end. It wasn't. It was a crazy machine.
The mother crying at the beginning and talking about how she lost her.
Well, I mean, the thing is, it's on the same level as Adrift in that way. There's so many similar things, and people think about Adrift as this big thing with with Jonah and Ruth Jones and all that kind of stuff. But there is a Sarah Jane Adventures alternative to it, and
like
it is.
Curse of Clyde Langer.
Curse of Clyde Langer is the worst. Curse of Clyde Langer in the sense of it's the best, but it is the one that I sit there and I feel the most pain watching, oddly.
That is so...
I mean, Temptation of Sarah Jane is a shocking one, because that one is she has to send her parents off to die, and there's that whole kind of
Father's Day formula, but it's got
the most painful bit of it is the note at the end where it says, "Mr. Smith, I need you," and I'm like,
Oh, it's so heartbreaking, but in the best possible way.
In the best way, yeah.
I really love Sarah Jane Adventures. It's one of the best shows to ever happen, really. And for a kid's show as well, it just. I don't know how we'll segue back to this. So, do you want to see the thing while we're on? That is kind of where I was leading to, because I want to talk about the prop you're about to show me, and another prop you have in the workshop. that comes from the Gorgon two-parter, and of course you instantly know.
Well, there's actually there was two in the workshop, so I didn't know which one you meant there. I have a gun
Oh.
from the Warriors of Kudlak currently sat in the workshop, one of the slab guns. I actually now have a slab costume, the full outfit, the screen used one from the show. So this is the main one.
This one.
This is Bubble Shock. It contains Bane, which is organic. So drink it.
Right
I'm not gonna drink
it.
There's nothing on earth that could make me drink what is inside. So this bottle has remained sealed for 17 years, or maybe 80. I don't know. So 2007, the first of January 2007, Invasion of the Bane, the pilot for Sarah Jane aired, which had the Bane and Bubble Shock in. So this is from production 2006, which makes it nearly as old as you, I think.
I was 2003, born in 2003. So
right. So this would have been, you would have been free when this was made. So I actually saw someone from production confirm this is a genuine prop. It wouldn't have been the hero prop because they removed the logo, the text from the top. However, this would have been a screen used one that would probably someone would have been walking around going drink it, or it would have been one of the ones in the bucket. We don't know which one it is, but it is a screen used proper one. So it's got the whole label
one
on
day
and everything.
Like, come on,
I can smell it. I can smell it, and it is some sort of orange pop, but it is 17 years old, man. The other thing is also people, it's not even just a case of the fact it's grim to think of the concept of drinking a 17-year-old drink. It's also the fact of this is all precious liquid. This is all screen used liquid. If I drink this, then I've ruined a bit of this prop. Like I don't need to drink this. I have many other beverage options in this house. I don't need to drink this very expensive prop. So the one you were mentioning, I don't have it here at the moment. It is custodianed over by my friend Sonic Bolt.
Statue of Alan Jackson from Eye of the Gorgon.
Yes. So when Alan Jackson is turned into a statue in Eye of the Gorgon by the Gorgon, they actually made a full 6 foot something casting of Joseph Milson, who played Maria's dad, and Alan Jackson, and so it popped up on eBay. So basically so the casting department must have had it sat around, and the story goes that it was sold to the person on eBay in an auction many moons ago. They had a few other props like one of the ventriloquist dummies from the God Complex and a few other bits and pieces like that. And so they put it up on eBay, but I think it was marked so obscurely that it didn't show up barely on any searches. So we got full reign of that auction. Like no one saw it. So we put in our bid. I won't say how much, but it wasn't very much in the grand scheme of things. And acquired it. So currently we're doing. So his back had sort of broken. There was because it's a mannequin. It's an actual shop mannequin that they've then put on the sort of casted skin layer to. So it is a level of it's kind of fragile on the outside. And so he's pretty good. There's some bits of damage on him. And so what we're currently working on is how to stabilize him. We don't necessarily want to restore him back to full working order because that takes away the history of what's happened to him.
Of course.
But if he's going to crumble to nothingness, we do want to make sure that he is at least in a stable condition. So that's kind of what we're doing there.
Every prop you have, out of like the Dalek, the Scarecrow head at the back there, out of every single one of them, for some reason I find the Alan Jackson statue to be the one I'm most jealous of. The one
it's weird, isn't it? Like I have so many iconic props. I've moved more recently into collecting screen used props. Like I had one or two, like I had some banknotes from The Runaway Bride, and a few bits and pieces. But recently I've kind of picked up a few more recognizable bits, and Alan Jackson's the weirdest one. Alan Jackson's the one that, like, the Bubble Shock, maybe that one of those would pop up eventually. Cool. I have swords from Class, oh cool. That I could imagine those being chucked out in a skip and someone picking them out and selling them, fair enough.
Very cool, but no Alan Jackson.
But Alan Jackson, a 6-foot effigy of Joseph Milson, is the weirdest one. And so on Twitter, because Joseph Milson was recently in Moon Knight as Stephen Grant, and so I tweeted him about Moon Knight. I think because Stephen Grant, the character, spoilers for anyone who's not seen Moon Knight, and this isn't a big one. At some point in the show, he gets turned into stone, and I went. And I did the whole sort of, if I had a nickel for every time that Joseph Milson's character got turned to stone, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so,
good voice, by the way. Kind of.
it needs work, but
yeah.
A platypus, Perry the platypus. It's not what it could be. But effectively, I tweeted him about it. And I think I posted, nice to see Joseph Milson in the show. And recently, weirdly, I've acquired Alan Jackson. And he was like, and he came in, he was like, I wondered where the hell that gone. And I was like, yeah, I know. And I think I said something along the lines of like his back is in a bit of a bad way. Hopefully yours is better. And he said, that's an accurate representation of how my back feels. And so we had a little bit of a laugh about it. And so, yeah, I'd like to get him on a video. Like, that's my main thing at the moment. I'd like to, because we're restoring the statue, and I'd like to get him in a video with the statue to kind of reunite them, kind of thing.
I'd like to bring him on here and talk all things Alan Jackson.
It would be cool. It's effectively like it's it might not happen. Some nice things do happen in the world, but it would be good because we're going to we're putting a lot of work and effort into making sure it gets stabilized, and then we're going to give it a good museum level home someday. We're working on getting a workshop currently, and it would also double up as a display place for some of these sort of props we're archiving, because that's the thing. It's not just a case of getting them for our own needs. It's a case of we want to archive them, restore them, keep them safe, because some things end up neglected or they end up on in a skip and that kind of preservation. And so Alan Jackson's one of those things that I think everyone loves. Alan Jackson apart from Chrissy, but maybe even she might like him. She does a bit. Calamity Jane and all that. But effectively though, Ivan's coming around. But effectively, I just love him. I love that character, and so to be able to have Alan Jackson, there's Joseph Milson, and then there's the statue of Alan Jackson, and it's like one of those weird things. It's like, I don't know why, like maybe one of the other statues that were in the garden or something, that kind of thing. Like the only one I know of that exists still was the Gorgon. The Gorgon's in storage, and the Gorgon actually was in the Doctor Who Experience. So there was, in the Experience, there's an interactive bit you walk through, and there was a bit with the Weeping Angels, and the Gorgon statue, when it got turned to stone at the end, was hidden in amongst that display. And like no one really noticed it, and I didn't notice it until the final day. We were on the last tour of the Doctor Who Experience ever, and we went through, and I saw the flash of lightning, and I saw it stood there, and I went, how have I never noticed that? What the hell? That's incredible. It was there, really Amy and Rory's gravestone, and I'd love to have that. But Joseph Milson is no second best statue in this one. He's amazing. But yeah, he's currently watched over by Sonic Bolt. I think Alan stands in his mum's bedroom. I think literally, like at the moment, because he's just got a flat rather than like a workshop and stuff. So the plan originally was to bring him here, but because he's anything can happen. But because he's such a fragile statue, we're trying to do the work there instead of bringing it here, because he might get damaged in transit. So we don't want to move him unnecessarily. So we want to kind of stabilize him as best we can before doing that and moving him to a sort of permanent home in the workshop.
Yes. Anyways, where were we? Oh yes, Joseph Milson as a statue.
Joseph Milson. I feel like we spoke as much as we could about Joseph Milson as a statue.
Other props you have, of course, you have the Scarecrow in the background there. A piece of the Doctor's TARDIS up there, I believe.
Which one? Where? That one? Yeah, that is a TARDIS roundel from the RTD era.
Very cool. When I imagined you bringing that down or showcasing it, I imagined you like Elton, like bringing down Ursula from the camera.
We've even got a bit of a love life. No, it's.
I love that episode. I'll take any opportunity to bring it up. And
Yeah,
is that the vinyl for Doctor Who series 1 and 2, the OST
it
there?
is. That is the original soundtrack for
I mean,
the orange version. I
banger.
just got that the other day.
Oh, nice.
It
I mean,
is. It is.
yeah.
I tried to sort of pick up anything to do with that era because it's my favorite, and so I was like, oh God, I gotta get a record of the soundtrack. We were recently about to put a record player up in our lounge, so I was like, oh, better get a record to play on it. I feel like it'd be quite cool.
I recently because I'm planning on taking my record player to uni, which I'm going to later on in the year, and I came across one of my favorite records of all time, which I've never gotten on vinyl in an antique shop, from Out of the Blue, Eli, which Mr. Blue Sky, obviously.
I have got the blue edition upstairs.
Ooh, and of course, everyone goes on about Mr. Blue Sky, but there's so many brilliant songs like Turn Stone. I mean, of course,
Stone.
there's like
not
on that album, but Don't Bring Me Down.
Don't Bring Me Down. Living Thing.
Hey.
Yeah, there you go.
Xanadu.
Yes. What's the other one I really like?
Telephone Line. All Around the World. Evil Woman.
All Over Beethoven. That one's I do
Sweet Talking Woman, Evil Woman.
Sweet Evil Woman, yeah. It's when you say something about like the songs, they all left my head. I'm sat going, yes, that's the one I like. I'm just like, hang on. But yeah, no, they're all bangers. They really are. They were my dad's favorite band growing up, so I was sort of raised upon them. And that concert we went to was mad. When you see people dancing in the 70s or the 80s to sort of these things, and you're like, God, and you see people doing that dancing in films, and you go, did people really dance like that? I don't see anyone doing that. They just got older. They still dance like that. So these songs are coming on, and Don't Bring Me Down comes on, and suddenly the entire O2 stands up, and it's all these sort of middle-aged people just doing all these, and I'm just sort of going, what in God's name has happened here? They're just boogie on down. It's just like, they got me spinning, going out of my mind. And so yeah, it was really fun.
Funny enough, I got into ELO through Love and Monsters.
No, you can't. I mean, to be fair, I feel like I got into David Bowie because of Life on Mars. Like, I feel like I wasn't that into David Bowie until I watched Life on Mars.
Considering I was like around, must have been around 5, 6, something like that, when I watched Love and Monsters. It was probably the first time I ever heard it, but I didn't know who the band was because I wasn't really paying attention to when Elton was saying the name of it. But then I really got into it once I figured out. I suppose Love and Monsters, because also my dad did play it, but Mr. Blue Sky and Love and Monsters was really a catalyst to me listening to them, I suppose, in the same way, sort of like the Rogue Traders did Voodoo Child, which appears obviously in Sound Drums, Lost of the Time Lords, along with Can't Decide by Scissor Sisters. Both of those I only listened to that, but now with the Scissor Sisters I listen to like their other songs like Laura and the rest of the Tadar album, and well, Laura's not on that album, but the rest of them are like She's My Man and I Don't Feel Like Dancing. Love that one.
All bangers. Music was just better in the 2000s, and I will die on this hill. And so, yeah.
I think
I'm trying to think. I'm trying to bring it back to topics we should be discussing, really, Doctor Who wise, because I feel like we've strayed. I mean, like it's fine to stray, but I feel like you asked me a question many tracks ago that we've completely gone off.
Yes, well, that's always the best.
I still don't think I've told you the difference between live action and audio, Fraser. I feel like
we never will. Carry on.
You'll never find out. I feel like there's someone sat here who's been watching it from the start going, but what is the difference? It's Connor. Connor's sat there going,
definitely is.
And yeah, the difference is I can give a better performance because I get to try again. Whereas it's the Minisode wasn't so bad because I was directing it and I got my own time. With Luke Newman, it could be the 1960s basically, because it's very much a case of, right, that's good, we'll go, and like, can I do that again? No, that was fine. I'm like, it's literally like the Toast of London thing that was the other day. It's just like I coughed halfway through, I didn't hear anything. But
I mean, that was the other thing you mentioned that I really liked. Toast of London. Everyone loves Toast of London. I really
It
wish Matt
is.
Berry would join the show. I saw him on the BFI recently.
He
Yes,
is amazing.
yeah, he's an amazing man.
Well.
Right?
He's the
Wow.
best IT crowd character.
Oh yeah.
Father.
I did that in Time Fracture because I went dressed up as Brian the Ood and I put the mask on before, spoilers, Brian dies in the corner of the room. And so I'm like dressed in the tuxedo, doing that in the Ood mask and shouting, "Father!" But nobody could really hear me through the mask. So I was just there cradling him, and I assume you heard about when I pulled his arm off because I did do that.
Yeah, violence, just sheer violence, carnage.
Unintentional violence. People were pulling me back, pull me back, and like I just
Vanessa, I thought you were dead. No, so it was with Brian the Ood. Actually, my favorite memory of that entire thing was my friend Ollie. And so Ollie was in. We went into the room.
Is that Ollie the cosplayer, or is that another?
That is Ollie the cosplayer. So Ollie the cosplayer, who he helps me on projects. So he script edited Standstill, the Minisode, the mini audio one that came out, and he also did the script editing on the first New Era script, which won't be made, but he's helping in some capacities on other projects at the moment. Which I've not mentioned anywhere online yet, but I was given permission to tell you about the things if you want to know about BBC's Doctor Who.
I would like to talk about it because I was wondering whether we could talk about that, but it'd be good.
Well, I'll tell you about the Brian the Ood story first, and then I'll tell you about BBC's Doctor Who. So with Time Fracture, for those of you who don't know, I worked on Time Fracture. There is a video with Jack Reeves out there where I talk a lot about that. However, after that video, I went back and did a few more bits and pieces on it. I got more ingratiated with the cast, which was really nice. They're all wonderful, wonderful, talented people, and they're all doing great things now. But effectively, with Time Fracture, me and my friend Ollie went in. We got to this room, and so spoilers, and obviously Time Fracture is gone now, so that might not matter, but I don't know if they're bringing it back. But effectively, Brian the Ood dies in the story. Now, the universe at the end of the story does get reset, so Brian isn't dead canonically in the universe. He could still be out there if they decide to bring him back. However, within this storyline, he is killed by a time agent, or a Gallifreyan agent called Zariah, and so he's lying on the floor of this kind of almost like a bathroom looking place. It looks like it had like a fly killing thing in the corner and a sink, and he's just there with all this goo all over the wall and over his brains. And then we're there with a Time Lord guide, and so she comes in and she goes, "Oh no, Brian, what should we do?" And Ollie goes, "Well, I suppose we'll have to harvest the organs." And everyone in the room just looks at him. I'm dying. I've lost it. I'm like, and then I'm just like, yeah, I imagine Ood tentacle fetches a pretty penny on the black market. And so we're just, but it was one of those things that me and Ollie found it funny. Maybe one or two other people in there, but the whole group of just sort of normal people are all kind of going, "What?" And the Time Lord guide's like, "Yeah, okay." and it's a family show, so it was a bit dark, even though there was a dead Ood on the floor that had brains shot across the wall. So
I had a right joke about when I went to Time Fracture. Like I ended up going 6 times in the end. Like
I went 12 times in the end.
Yeah, so
I was there on the first dress rehearsal. I think I was on at least one of the first dress rehearsals. I obviously came in before the show even started, when they were still setting up to hand over the props I'd made. I made a timey-wimey detector, sonic lipstick, and a few other bits and pieces to sort of kick around, like a Jubilee pizza box in Torchwood and all that kind of stuff. And then I consulted on the various kind of rooms. And so
the pizza in Torchwood, by the way, that was one detail that I did immediately notice. So
yeah, so I went into Torchwood with the art director Ryan O'Connor, very talented man. And so we went into Torchwood, and he was very good. He was very good, but I feel like there was a level of, no one's as obsessive as I am. Like it's nothing bad on them. No one is as mad obsessed with props. And the problem with Time Fracture in the sense of this is for my involvement was the fact that I had already done this for fun. Like I had already done all the research you need to know for what they needed to do for my own self. And so that is a sad fact. It is a real sad fact in my life. Like I enjoy it, and it's what I enjoy. But no one should have researched the Jubilee pizza box that is used in Torchwood. Now, I copied the graphics exactly. So the graphics on the Jubilee, even the font and everything, is the exact thing on the pizza boxes that Gwen holds in Torchwood. Now, there were two Jubilee pizza boxes. So Jubilee pizza box, the history of this, we're going on a tangent now, boy. So Jubilee pizza boxes first appear in Dalek, a story written by Robert Shearman, I think that's his name. Robert Shearman, who wrote Jubilee.
I met him, actually.
Oh, well, so Jubilee was written by Robert Shearman, wasn't it? Which is a story very similar to Dalek.
Yeah, Jubilee inspired Dalek. Jubilee was kind of it was written first, of course. It was the big finish with the Sixth Doctor and Evelyn being one of my favorite companions, but it's tangent for another day. And then it was sort of adapted to Dalek, but I would consider it vastly different, but also
yeah, I imagine so. But did Robert write it?
Yes, Robert wrote Dalek and Jubilee.
Right. So Jubilee pizza shows up in Dalek. It's on one of the, I think there's a Jubilee pizza box on the thing. It has a different logo and stuff. However, the same logo from that does appear on the computer screen in Torchwood. So it's their old logo. Then we copied the new pizza boxes that were used in all the other series from then on. The other time I think Jubilee pizza shows up is in the lodger. I think Craig has one of the leaflets in his hands when he's going through. Anyway, so effectively, though, I copied that pizza box and it was on the table. So I walked into the room and I said to Ryan, this is great. You know, got the wall that says Torchwood, we've got the monitors and everything, but there's some things that are a bit weird. For instance, there was pictures of Jack's grandson and daughter on Tosh's desk, and there was also Gwen's desk. And then there's pictures of Gwen and Reese next to the hand in the jar. And I'm sat there going, that should be the other way around. If you're going to have the hand in the jar here, you should have Jack's pictures next to the hand in the jar with all the stuff from his office on that filing cabinet with his stuff. And you should have all the Tosh and Gwen stuff on the desks that Tosh and Gwen used. The other thing, I literally marched them to the storage. I said, I was kind of like, it was basically that. I went, have you got storage? Do you have any props? Because there's something that's missing from here that was in the Doctor Experience, and you've got everything else from the Doctor Experience, so you must have this somewhere. And it was the Owen Harper and Toshiko picture where they're kind of sat there with a drink and everything, and it's the one that Gwen kind of comes in and says, hello, morning. And I was like, I need that image to be on the monitor. Like I can't come into the Torchwood Hub and not see those two in here. And so we went to storage and we pulled out a box, and it was in amongst a bunch of files. And so I got to take it in and put it up on the thing. And it was very poignant to me. I was like, I need that to be there, because that as a fan is one of the Easter eggs I would want to see. And so they were very good with letting me almost run riot in that place. Like I was there for 5 hours when I was only meant to be dropping off something, basically. Like I was meant to just drop off something, and I feel like I was there for until from midday until the end of the day. I can't remember how long I was actually there for, but effectively they've really let me put all the Easter eggs in. It was so wonderful how much they cared about fans getting to have that much detail, that they did care about me being able to do that kind of thing. So there was so many Easter eggs in the thing, you would never have found all of them. There was some that I was pointing out to people, and so, but yeah.
God, I wish I'd tangent you now, because you would be able to point out everything.
That was what happened. That's how I ended up going 12 times. People kept
maybe you could have helped me find the Zygons, because apparently there was a Zygon bit in there.
The Zygon only appears as, I think, either so basically down the corridor where Queen Elizabeth's courtroom was, there is a thing, and if you look into it, you can see a screen on the inside. It's like a prison cell, an alien containment cell, and there was a Zygon that they filmed for it on a scring. So that's where it was. The same way in Da Vinci, where the silence came out of the. So it was that thing.
And I think it was like the penultimate one that I went to, where Brian Yu just started flirting with Leonardo, and they shared. They leaned in for a kiss. Yeah. And it was fun.
I loved that. It's just like would you like me to pose for you again, Leonardo? It's just like he's like yes, see, but this time with your clothes on.
Ryan was my favorite character. out of all.
Oh, Brian was magic. So with Brian, I had sent the Brian the Ood. So there were several actors. Not all of them. I think all of them got it in the end, but originally, effectively, the first wave of Brian the Oods from the first batch of actors, I'd sent them all the information. So I'd met them because all of the people who played Captain Stephen Davies, who was the Torchwood captain, they also doubled up and played Brian the Ood.
Yeah.
And so I was giving all them Torchwood information because they were on the day when I went in and started walking around the Torchwood hub. So effectively, I came into the hub and there was John Hart's DNA disc, which is this kind of the bomb that attaches it to his chest in Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. And so that was on the table. And one of them picks it up and goes over to Ryan, the art director, and says, "Hey, what is this prop though?" And Ryan goes, "I don't know." And I'm just sat there going, "It's this." And so I then tell them, and they're like, "So you actually know what this is?" And so I go around the entire room and I tell them what everything is. And so at that point, they were like, "Oh, so we're meant to be Victorian Torchwood captains. What would we need to know about this?" And so I gave them a list of episodes, and I actually made a Google Drive which had rips of the episodes inside of the things. I think it's fine. It was BBC Business, so I'm sure. They're all free on iPlayer anyway. So, but effectively, I gave them all that, and then I gave them a list of Big Finish stories they needed to go through because like the Victorian age and all the Victoria ones and stuff, because they are the ones that possibly they would know about as a character. If it's anything from the future, they won't know necessarily. Some of them did extra research where they could get some of these references and stuff, and I actually wrote them all a little cheat sheet that had all the information they needed. I may or may not have slipped in something to do with Rebirth. So in the list of things, I said Torchwood 1 is London, Torchwood 2 is Glasgow, Torchwood 3 is Cardiff, and Torchwood 4 is missing. However, it's suspected to be in Cambridge, which is where Rebirth is set. I don't know. I think I asked once, and I think one of them said, "Oh, well, Torchwood 4 is in Cambridge," and I sat down and went, "For this play and this play only, I am canon." Fraser Ward is real, and he lives in. So,
I'm gonna talk about Sam Hatcher myself for a bit, but before I talk about that, you've mentioned an episode, and recently I've realized how much I hate the Lodger. How much, like, I don't hate. I pretty much love most, if not every Doctor Who story. But I was recently showing a friend of mine Doctor Who for the first time, and I got my sister to, who's watched it with me growing up, but she isn't as big a fan as me. Not to the point where she's obsessed with every episode. She wanted the fourth episode we watched was like, the funny James Corden one, and I thought, it's not too bad. It's a bit cringe. I watched it, and it was so boring.
It is dull. It is a really dull episode in that sense, and I cannot remember. There's that bit where he just like, "Sorry, you're going to live with monkeys now," and I'm like, I don't even understand what the hell just happened. Like that's strange, and the pilot thing is never really explained properly. Like suddenly the TARDIS is being used by silencers, and it's like, well, what is going on? What is this?
Well, there is a throwaway reference in the Impossible Astronaut where he's, this is what that was for. But then
I think it was, but it was like, but they never got it to work properly, and then but all the silence killed themselves after that point. I'm just like, what is? You should kill us all on sight, so that they would have been dead by that point. They would, so that, what's going on, and so it's very strange, but. It was just a weird episode, and there's the whole kind of Matt Smith likes playing football, so there's a whole scene where he plays football, and James Corden's Smithy, so it's funny to watch him run around and not be able to play football. And I'm like, I get the Lodger obviously was a comic. The Lodger was a comic which had Mickey and the Doctor coming to stay with Mickey originally, the 10th Doctor, and I'm sure it was. I'm sure it makes sense as a short comic. That I imagine is fine. This was too long, and it shouldn't have. And I think the reason I don't think it's necessarily awful. I just think it was placed amongst a very good series. Like I think Series 5 is one of the strongest series, and it's one of those ones that, because all the other episodes are so strong, that it's so noticeable when one is letting down the side. Like, I think like, was it Vincent and the Doctor? Was Vincent and the Doctor the one before this? Like did we go? I think because Rory's forgotten by this point.
Yeah.
So did they go
one
from
right before the finale? So this
So this is the one before the finale, and then I think it's Vincent and the Doctor, and then because
Vincent
we've got
a
11th Hour, Beast Below, Victory of the Daleks, Angel two-parter, so Time and Angels, Flesh and Stone. Then it's Amy's Choice. No, wait, Vampires of Venice, because they pick up Rory. Then Amy's Choice. Then it's the Hungry Earth. Then it's Cold Blood, or the other way around. And then, that was the right one. Then it's Vincent and the Doctor. Then it's The Lodger. Then it's Pandora Opens and Big Bang. So literally, we went from what is considered one of the best stories ever to The Lodger. And that's why I think it. And then, like, I think Pandora Opens is one of the. I wouldn't say it's one of the best finales. I don't think. I think it's one of. It's clever.
I love it.
The thing is, I love it from a childhood standpoint. I think, and I also think there's a lot of clever things going on inside of it. So I'm not saying it's a bad episode by any means, but it isn't. It isn't the master finale. The three-parter. It isn't Bad Wolf Parting of the Ways, but it is still good. I think Big Bang lets it down. I think Big Bang lets it down.
About the master three-parter, real quick. What did you say about the Saxon three-parter?
I think it's one of the best. I think Utopia through Sound of Drums is one of the and then Last of the Time Lords is one of the best finales ever. I think Utopia as a standalone episode is magic. It is Derek Jacobi as the master. Is
the master as well? Like, they're both.
And then of course John Sim, and it carries over, and you get two brilliant actors playing the master within one thing, and you get Jack Martha and Ten all together, and I think. It's wonderful because I love Martha and she gets highlighted and she gets to be her own character throughout this.
People always use the ending to knock it, and I don't understand why. I get the whole space Jesus thing, but that's not the ending.
It doesn't matter. The thing at the end of the day is I loved that moment. I absolutely love the whole world saying Doctor at the same point, and it's the whole thing. It's just like and he I don't care. He is Jesus to me. I'll say it.
If you think about it, that's set up in both the Shakespeare Code, the power of words.
Exactly.
And
the power of words, the Lazarus experiment setting up the fact that he's going to be old and everything, and he become young again.
Gridlock kind of focuses on belief.
Yeah,
the whole thing is belief. I fucking love that finale. I think it's it's my top 3, definitely.
It's also got such wonderful dark stuff. I mean, the whole stuff happening to Martha's family is so, and the whole population of the Earth is gone, and the fact that they forgive the woman for betraying them. Because they knew she would. They knew that humans can't be trusted and how motivations. And there's so many layers. And the thing that I always maintained about Russell is he's playing 4D chess with everything he does. And nothing highlights this more for me than the hand in the jar, which is a magnificent prop in my mind. But also the concept of it. Russell cuts a hand off in the Christmas Invasion. Series 1, Christmas special. He cuts the Doctor's hands off. Then he goes and invents Torchwood, and he sets it up throughout series 2 and everything. And then we go to Torchwood, where Jack has the hand in the jar, and you don't know what's going on. They just sort of play the Doctor's theme when it's seen and that kind of stuff. And then at the end of the series, it starts bubbling, and then it's because it's telling Jack that the Doctor's upstairs, which leads to the end of series 3's finale. And series 3 at this point has gone on to involve the idea of Lazarus and everything, all of this stuff. It's brought back the master, all that kind of stuff. And so Jack turns up with the hand in the jar, and the Doctor going, wait, that's my hand. That's the first time he's seen this hand since it was cut off and everything. The master in the next episode then uses it to turn the Doctor older because of the fact it's got his DNA in it. Then the Doctor takes that at the end of the series and he puts it on the TARDIS, and then it pops up when Jenny's doing her thing. Jenny's there and it's bubbling away, and it's like, oh, it noticed that. And then he uses it to pour the Doctor's regeneration energy in it, so David Tennant stays David Tennant, and then he grows another Doctor from this hand, and the whole Donna thing, the Doctor Donna, which has been going on for seasons, and then he gives the hand, the Doctor, the Metacrisis Doctor, to Rose, who he trapped without a Doctor 2 seasons ago on a beach, and she gets her own Doctor from a hand that he cut off in series 1. Of that,
incredible.
That's the end of series 4, and at the end of series 1 he did that. That's 3 seasons and a spin-off.
Absolutely amazing.
And so
I can't wait for him to come back. It's going to be amazing.
I know, it's going to be absolutely stunning.
I can't wait for that level of four-dimensional chess to be played again. And I mean, even the Jack being the face of Bo from series 1, series 3. I mean, it's all insane. It all connects, like downfall of Harriet Jones leading to the rise of Harold Saxon, and even like the Prime Minister in Children of Earth as well.
No, it links back to that, and then obviously then also the subwave network being set up and everything.
Like that, you know, like in the Slovene two-parter, that Prime Minister that was murdered, that was in the cupboard, that was actually Tony Blair. That was actually supposed to be Tony Blair. So Russell Davies did kill Tony Blair and place him in a cupboard.
Well, the thing is also then he then has his own Harriet Jones who leaves and everything, and then you get to John Sims' master. That's all well and good. They then have President Winters who they kill off, and then it gets reset, and then in the end of time they have Barack Obama. So there's a level of them inserting stuff, but then Russell occasionally bringing it back round to be real life again, which is mad. He really is mad. And so, anyway, that's a massive tangent we went on there.
I mean, I absolutely adore the series 3 finale. I think it's brilliant from beginning to end. And the Space Jesus scene isn't even the end of the episode, it's the Master dying. That's the emotional culmination of everything that's happened. And Martha,
not only that, Martha leaving. Martha saying, "This is me getting out," and it's just like that. And then the Titanic comes through the wall. It's like. And then, of course, there's the and Doctor, don't forget to put your shields up.
Imagine if they edited that, like Davison saying that. You don't know why it happens in like that episode in like Last of the Time Lords, but then you find out that he comes back in Time Crash. But that's a whole different thing that they should edit into the collection. Just saying. But back to a Time Fracture real quick, because I've got a few funny stories in Time Fracture that I talked to with Jack about on his one, like when I was talking to Jack and Abby, but because like it's on a kind of like a similar level to you know, say the Harvest the Organs bit, but because I had the Brian mask that I brought with me in like a tuxedo, and I wasn't allowed to wear it inside for security reasons. Fair enough. But Soraya was at like no wait, the one before that, like Brian, you know, tour guide Brian was just standing there, and I walk up to him, I hold the Brian mask up, and I say, "I met a nude once," and it's just like he turns around and says, "Oh, you skinned a nude," and then like that was that was an experience. I mean, and I wish he had chosen me to like pretend to be Brian, because you know one of the tracks you have
it's one of the squires,
with
Davros.
And then I did a similar thing. Soraya was at like, I knew Brian was about to be killed, and Soraya was at like the bar with that like thing. I walk up with the Brian mask, slam it on the desk, and says, "I think I killed the wrong dude." And then that was Jack's idea for me to go up there. And then I got a selfie with Brian on the last day. I got a selfie with him in the bar, and I got a selfie with his dead body.
I mean, everyone kind of went through it on the last. I was very well behaved in Time Fracture. Like there were some things I did that was a bit cheeky, but I mainly stayed. Like I was like, this is a professional environment. I'm not going to steal stuff. And so
I almost did steal a prop once actually.
Oh yeah, I was very tempted by the pizza box on the last day. I was like, "That's mine. I made this. I could easily take this." But no, I gave them a lot of money. I went 12 times and I raided that gift shop like no one's business.
Funny enough, I almost accidentally stole something on like when it was before flood times. Actually, it was like the first week, first 2 weeks. And you know how Davros hands you a time ring?
The Dalek time controller ring thing.
In the first run, they tell you to give it to someone you trust. Give it to someone you trust. I trusted no one. I trusted no one and took it out.
I think they got rid of that. I think that was an inherent flaw in the fact that humans don't like people.
That might have been my fault, because I took it into the reception area after the experience finished. Was I supposed to take this? And then because like it told you to tell no one, like for some reason I didn't mention it. It was really difficult to explain. Davros gave this to me.
I'm trying to think of other funny stories. So I went 12 times, and my aim was I wanted to do every track at least once, and I did manage to do it. I managed to do every single version of Time Fracture, which there was one other guy. I think there was one other guy. Maybe I think it was one of there was this guy, and he went like 30 loads of times. It was mental. He genuinely turned up, and he was such a nice bloke. I met him a few times. I can't remember his name now. But he had crutches. He was a nice big beard. And so he went 30 times. But effectively, I feel like I might be one of the only people that did every track. And there was one night I was out we were in the bar with the cast, and I think I started mentioning some of the other track stuff to people, and they went, "I don't think I've ever even known what you guys do up there," because some people work in the unit bit and the Gallifrey bit, and they never go into the middle bit. So that if you don't do that and you don't go through it, you won't know what everyone else is doing on the team. The other thing that I do have from time for which I don't think I can get out because of the fact it's in my. So I've got in my display cabinets we have new series Sonics, sort of 7B area. So this is all that kind of stuff. The classic era, the RTD era, sort of miscellaneous props, and then below it is a shrine to myself, which sounds egotistic.
I noticed the Miracle Day mask down there. That's the one thing.
Yeah, can you see that? That is screen use. Yeah. That's a soulless mask from Miracle Day. From one of the.
It's such an underused concept, gotta say.
I know, from one of the crowd scenes. Let me get it out. So this is actually
the solar statue come back, because I imagine they didn't just disperse after the Maybe it gathered a new meaning after the end of Miracle Day.
There you go.
It is an incredible mask, doesn't it?
It is. It's very simple, but it's very effective. So yeah, no, this is screen use and everything. It's it smells. So it's got
wonderful, bro.
It's got ST 2011-111 scratched into the top there. So yeah, so this was from the crowd scenes, from the scene where obviously Gwen is seeing them when she's walking past with the shopping. They call themselves the Soulless.
I really wish they used that concept more. Like, it was such a good concept and such a striking design.
Yeah, that's the Miracle Day manipulator. If it turns on, if the batteries are in this at the moment. Oh no, it does.
Oh yeah. Oh wow. That's incredible.
Yeah, so for Miracle Day, they switched out the prop from Jack's original one because the real prop was still being used by the BBC at the time for Doctor Who Series 5. Yeah. So they used they got some new ones made up by the American production team, which was pretty sweet. Then just put that there. This is another screen used one. This is from the caretaker. Peter Capaldi hides a bunch of these around the.
He hides them in the plants and stuff. Yeah,
around the school. And then that's my time fracture bit down here, basically though. Which is where I got most of the stuff. Do I have anything I can just grab at hand? I've got a bunch of screwdrivers that the cast used. So effectively, we went to the bar one night, and everyone went, well, it's ending soon. We would like sonic screwdrivers, possibly. It was kind of like I offered, and I was like, would you want? What would you want? Your character. And so I now have a few screwdrivers that were used in time.
You actually handed, because they had a wonderful Time Lord guide costume based on Curse of Fatal Death, and I believe you handed them an accurate.
I do. It was this one. So this one was used by. I gave it to Beth, who played Maybe, which was the Curse of Fatal Death one. So they weren't actually the doctors in the show. They were meant to be Time Lord guides, but they were wearing doctory outfits because that's what Time Lords would wear. And so she was playing the Curse of Fatal Death one called Maybe, and so so she had my Curse of Fatal Death screwdriver, because the original Curse of Fatal Death screwdriver was an 800 Trekker. So there was a person or company in the 80s and 90s, I think, 800 Trekker. So they made these and they were sold in the Who shop. And so when Curse of Fatal Death came around and they needed a screwdriver, they bought one of these. So this is a genuine one that I bought. And so then when the time came, they were like, oh, well, and I was like, I actually have a Curse of Fatal Death Sonic. So I lent it to them. And so I think it was used. She said she did use it in a I was just trying to remember when she said she used it or asked her what she did. But she did say she used it at one point, because I think someone asked her if it had free settings.
I understood that reference.
Yeah. It is a screwdriver for you. This is
is that Dom's?
This is DOMS. This is an
Yeah.
unpainted DOMS one. So this is
Yeah.
prop 3. So there was prop 1, which was lost during some of the series 5 filming. Prop 2 is currently with them, and they've been filming with it. And so that's the stuff that's mainly appearing in the remastered. Prop 2 is noticeable because Luke put it together, but for some reason he's put it together so that the central rod is really overextended. Like it's like all the way out like this in the current prop. It's kind of mad. Whereas it's only going to be like out like that much.
Yeah.
And then this is prop 3.
I like it. I really like it.
Yeah, so it's got these pen blanks. Actually, I do have some pen blanks up here. So effectively, these are used commonly in sonic screwdriver making. I don't know if they've appeared on any of the modern sonic screwdrivers, but in replica making, a lot of people did use them. So this is a raw DOM one. So this is what it looks like when it comes out of the thing, and then you turn it down, and then it gives you all the sort of swirls and everything. This one was bought for Luke. This one was meant to be Luke's own screwdriver, which he was going to use in the remaster. I think he's gone with some other design now, however, instead of this one. So that's fine now, I guess. And so so that and that. So this was meant to be prop 3, however, they don't need it anymore, so I'm keeping it. And this prop was meant to have functionality, so I was designing it so that you could you should be able to, I don't know if it will do it for me now, but you're meant to be able to slide this all the way down inside there like that. And so it was meant to have a sort of McGann-esque style where Dom could be able to do that and then sort of, pull it out. It won't do that now because it's too tight, but it should be able to. You should be able to pull it out. But originally it was also going to have a slider, so it was going to be a not to be.